Hi, I'm Mike Peel, and I'm from AnDevCon. I'm here with Yash Prabhu, and we're going to be talking about material design today. We've got a couple of questions lined up for Yash, but you're available to give your questions in the group chat, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. So, Yash, how did you get into Android development, and why are you qualified to speak about material design to the audience today?
Hi, Mike. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this AMA. And I'm looking forward to speaking to everyone about material design at AnDevCon Boston. So I got my start in Android development in school. I happened to take a course called Emerging Web Technologies at Penn. And one of the every week we had to try out something different. So one week we had to build an Android app. So that's how I learned how to build Android apps. And the first app that I built was a list of restaurants and food trucks in the campus. So that's where I got started. And then I got hired out of school by Drummer Fever, a Warner Brothers company. And for them, I built the Drummer Fever app, which is an international media streaming app, which is subtitled. And from there, we've been building apps on Google TV and Android TV, Fire TV, Kindles, and so on. So basically everything on Android. And now we have a team of 4 working on all these Android apps.
So how many years total have you been working in Android development?
I think I got my start sometime in 2010. So this is my 6th or 7th year, yeah.
All right, cool. So qualified to be an expert, that's good. So
I wouldn't say I'm an expert in material design, though, because it's something we're rewriting for the Drummer Fever app. And so my talk is going to be more of the developer's perspective. On why you should know material design if you're embarking on that journey of rewriting your app.
So why were you interested in adopting the material design guidelines? Why did you decide that's the best way to go rather than come up with your own UI UX?
So it goes back to when material design was introduced at Google I/O 2014. So it was introduced as part of Lollipop, and for once, we finally had guidelines. Prior to that, it was the Holo theme, which was kind of standard, and it kind of forced people to, I wouldn't say forced, but I guess Android users got used to looking at Android apps in a certain way. Prior to Holo theme, we had, the skeuomorphism, which was kind of how iOS apps, the early iOS apps were. So basically, it would look exactly like how apps would look in the real world. So it would be something like your calculator or compass app, and it would look exactly like what a real world calculator or compass would look like. So over the years, design has improved. And since Google introduced material design, it seems like a lot of apps are adapting it, and users are expecting that kind of experience. So it's more about the user experience. You constantly want to make sure that your app design evolves so that you provide your users the right experience.
So are there any limitations to using material design? Is it tough to stick to the guidelines? Is it too restrictive?
I wouldn't say it's tough. It's helpful if you go through all the design guidelines. Obviously, there's tons of it. So if you go to design.google.com, it gives you an idea of the concepts behind material design. For example, surfaces and shadows. So think about the Google Now interface on your Android phone. So you can see these cards which have a resting elevation, as in a shadow of 2 dp. So when you press it, it raises to your touch. So these are some of the things that you should be aware of before you start implementing material design in your apps. You need to know the concepts behind it. From the developer point of view, the most important things you should be using are the design support library and the app compat library, because with both of them, you can use a lot of components like coordinator layout, recycler view, card view, floating action button, all of those things which are very important for material design. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's tough to, follow any of these guidelines, but you need to know when to edit yourself. There's so much out there, you wouldn't want to try all of it. Try what makes sense for you. So if you're a company that streams video, focus on imagery. If you're a company that it's a news app or something like that, then focus on the typography. So choose what works best for you and your app.
So is there any way you're using it now on your current project that you'd like to talk about, or?
So our current project is kind of huge, but we've used one of the concept of bold graphic design that Material Design has introduced. So so in Material Design, everything is kind of laid out in a grid. So we made sure that all our UI elements are within that 8 dp grid. We also make sure that we're using the one color for our brand to identify it. So the color that we use on the Drama Fever app is red. For YouTube, it's red. For Inbox by Gmail, it's blue. So every brand, every app or every company has its own brand color, which is the primary color that that's one of the Material Design guidelines. Is they like focus on one brand color and use an accent color. So for example, Inbox by Gmail, the primary color is blue, and the accent color for the floating action button to compose your email is red. So those are contrasting colors, and you can use that to kind of define your brand.
So how can it help in development across different devices? Because the Android ecosystem is very fragmented. There's lots of different devices, lots of different form factors. How does it help with that?
So one of the cool things in Material Design was they introduced breakpoints. So they give you a list of breakpoints wherein your layout should change. So your phone or tablet can be in two layouts, either two modes rather, portrait and landscape. So when your phone is in portrait mode, you can say show 4 columns in your phone. But when you change it to landscape, you want it to show 8 columns. So at that point, you have a breakpoint basically. So if it's a Nexus 5 phone, I think it's 360 by 640 dp, the width and height. So the breakpoint would be 600 dp. The moment the screen size is above 600 dp, that is when you move from portrait to landscape, then your layout can change. So Material Design gives you this whole guideline about breakpoints and how you can use them from small to extra large handsets and tablets and phones. So that's how you can take care of a range of devices. You can make sure that you use the correct resource folders. So if it's like your portrait folder, just go with layout, and then you can put your XML in there. If it's a landscape, you want to probably do layout SW, smallest width 600 dp, and then it knows, hey, my breakpoint is 600 dp, so at this point, I'm going to change the layout. So that's why I said it's important to know the concepts behind it before trying to implement Material Design. So definitely check out design.google.com.
So it's better to get a broad perspective, read the documentation before you dive in, because otherwise you'll be backpedaling to try and fit the guidelines.
Again, whatever makes sense to you. If you're the kind of person who wants to implement it and go back and read it, that's fine. But if you're like me who wants to read it and then implement it, you can do that too.
So how does motion or animation come into play in Material Design?
So we talked about responsive UI, right? And how, like when you touch something, it raises to your, the card, for example, raises to your touch. So all of those things are important. Like what happens when you touch something? What happens when an object moves into your screen and moves out? So the Material Design has tons of guidelines on how you need to animate objects on, say, Android phones versus desktop. So in some cases, you want it to ease in and then ease out. And you want it to happen at, like, say, 300 milliseconds. Maybe that's the guideline on Android. On desktop, you have a guideline. I can't remember what it is, but I think it's a different number. So based on the kind of device or platform you have, you can figure out, they have guidelines for this as well. How an object would enter the screen or exit the screen, how long it would take for you to animate. You just have to make sure that it doesn't take too long to animate something, because your user is going to get very annoyed by it. So think about the user experience and follow the guidelines. Yeah.
So basically, if you follow the guidelines, those have been tested out, you're going to reduce user frustration
Yeah.
And so it increases like a sense of tactile connection with the app. Awesome. So what would you say to developers who are afraid that using material design will mean that their app doesn't look distinct and they're not going to be able to create a unique experience?
So as I said, you have to define your brand color, and then you have to pick and choose what you want from material design guidelines. Yes, there are like thousands of guidelines out there, but it doesn't mean you have to use all of them. Use the ones that are necessary for you. Use those brand colors because those are important. Just like YouTube uses red, Inbox by Gmail uses blue. Think about your brand colors. Try to use that. They mention it in the guidelines as well. This is a suggestion. You don't, really have to do it. We're not forcing you to do it, but think about it when you're doing this. One of the important things is when you're choosing your brand color. If you want to choose something for promoted actions, like say you want to write an email or send a message, that would go into your floating action button. And it's suggested that you probably use a contrasting color, something like say for red, the contrasting color would be green. Use a green color for your promoted action so that it stands out and and the user knows what to do with it.
All right, so
I wouldn't say that. Before we go ahead. So another thing to note is that the way you use typography, the way you use your all the patterns and components, all of those things, I don't think it's cookie cutter. Not a lot of people will have the same idea. You might have designers working with you, so something might stand out to them. So it wouldn't be like all the apps look the same. So you can see tons of apps out there on Google Play Store. They recently had awards for all of them. All of them are different in a way. Some of them focused more on animation and motion. Some of them focused on typography. Some of them focused on color. So you can see people are focusing on different aspects of material design. So they all won't end up looking the same way.
So just because you have guidelines doesn't mean that you're stuck in a box with what you have to do.
Yeah.
All right. So what would you like to see in the future from Google for the Android platform? What are some interesting trends that you're looking at? What do you want from it in the future?
From a material design or Android in general?
Let's just do Android in general. Let's get your perspective of the broader field.
I think they introduced a lot of cool things in Google I/O. I really like the Instant Apps feature. I think it was amazing. I think it's amazing that you can just go try out something on the Play without downloading the app from the Play Store. For example, if someone says, "Hey, check out Drama Fever's new video," you can just go there. You don't have to install it. You can just download it. Just that portion that you need, play it out. And if you think it's awesome, then you can just click a button on top and that says install, and you're good to go. So I like that they're bringing those kind of web concepts into Android. That way it's easier for us to move between apps.
All right, are you excited to come to AnDevCon and give your talk?
Yeah, this is my second time round. I really like coming there last time for the talk that I gave on in-app billing. So I'm looking forward to all the questions that I get from people. My talk is more about the implementation of material design than the design guidelines itself. But I think as we when you're developing something for when you're rewriting your app, following the guidelines, then you need to know a little bit of the guidelines as well. So I'm kind of the talk is kind of a bridge between the design and the implementation.
So you were over on the West Coast show in Santa Clara. The Boston audience is different, but same personalities as far as exciting developers and what they're capable of. So I can't wait to see you at the show. I guess we're going to close it off right here. I just want everybody to know that we still have a discount running that ends at the end of today. It's $500 off AnDevCon for Boston. But if you missed this show in August, we got another one coming around on the West Coast in December. Thank you so much, Yash, for joining me.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me.
And this will be available on YouTube, and we're also going to post an article with Yash's written answers. So if you missed some of it, you can go back and see it. for joining us today, and until next time.
Thank you. Bye.